Okay, good afternoon. Calling the case of Ethel Marks versus Sonny's Rooftop Bar. Are both parties ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. Proceed. Your Honor, I think you accidentally muted yourself.
I sure did. Thank you very much. Are there any matters to take up before we begin opening statements?
Just a few things from the plaintiff, Your Honor.
Sure.
May we make appearances before the court?
Of course.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Sahil Nerukar. I'm joined by my colleague, Ali Alekri. Together, we represent the plaintiff in today's case, Ethel Marks.
Good afternoon, plaintiff's counsel.
Next, Your Honor, we have a few more pretrial matters to attend to, but would you like defense to make appearances first?
Sure. Let's hear from the defense.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon. My name is Travis Harper, joined here today by my colleague, Ms. Stella Asfaron.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Together,
Good afternoon,
excuse me, Your Honor. Together, we represent the defendant in today's case, Sonny's Rooftop Bar. We're also joined today by the former CEO of Sonny's, Ms. Sunny Mehta.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Got it. Good afternoon, defense counsel and defendant.
Your Honor, since it's our first time in your virtual courtroom, we expect to be sharing our screen at various points in today's trial. Is it okay if we just note for the record what we're doing when we do so, or would you like us to ask permission?
You don't need to ask permission, but yes, please give the court a heads up and so the court reporter can capture it to just let us know what you're doing as you do it.
Yes, Your Honor. And next, we move to invoke Rule 615, sequestering Morgan Levin, who's the plaintiff's witness today, but not the defense's witness because it's their party opponent. Our party opponent, rather.
That's fine. And any issue with that defense?
No objections to that, Your Honor.
Okay, then they will be so sequestered.
Lastly, Your Honor, we just wanted to draw your attention to pretrial order number 11. It states that Exhibit 22, the autopsy, is pre-admitted, so we can use it at any point in today's trial, including opening statements.
Defense, any issue with that?
No, Your Honor, that's our understanding as well.
Okay, then you're free to use it.
And with that, Your Honor, barring anything from the defense, we're ready to proceed to opening statements.
Okay. Anything from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor, just a few things. First, can we constructively swear in all witnesses?
That's fine. Yes, all witnesses will be considered sworn when they take the stand.
We'd also like to draw the court's attention to a pretrial order signed by Judge Pasquarello. Specifically, Your Honor, Judge Pasquarello ruled that today we're going to be using a joint exhibit list, and exhibits have been pre-marked, and we'll be referring to them as those numbers throughout the trial. So if it seems like we're offering them out of order, we're just referring to those pre-marked numbers.
Understood. The court will continue using the exhibits that the way they've been labeled.
Yes, Your Honor. We'd also like to draw the court's attention to the fact that today the defense is pursuing an affirmative defense, specifically of comparative negligence, specifically by the decedent, that her injuries were caused by her own negligence, and we'll be offering evidence in today's case to that effect.
Understood.
With that, Your Honor, we're ready to go to opening statements.
Okay. Plaintiff?
Your Honor, can you see and hear me okay?
I'm sorry?
Can you see and hear me okay?
Yes, the court can see and hear you just fine.
Great. May it please the court. Mr. Harper, members of the jury. The signs were there, but they kept serving. It's March 24th, 2019. Jessica Marks is on spring break from her first year of college, and she's visiting her best friend in Malibu. Together, they decide to get some drinks at a local bar. Sonny's Rooftop Bar, the defendant in today's case. And today you're going to learn that when they get there, the defendant starts serving them alcohol. You're going to learn that Jessica starts to get drunk. How she starts slurring her speech, stops making sense, but the defendant keeps serving her alcohol. How she starts to lose her balance, stumbles into other people, and the defendant keeps serving her alcohol. How she gets into her car, starts to leave and drive away, and the defendant does nothing. Today you're going to learn that just 2 minutes after she leaves that bar, her car crashes. Her body is found at the bottom of a ravine. When medical examiners test the blood in her system for alcohol, they find it's 16 times the legal limit. She dies on the scene. She was 19 years old. Now, members of the jury, when you hear that story, it might sound like the story of a series of mistakes made by a teenager. But under California law, the story you've just heard is actually against the law. You see, under what we call the Dram Shop Act, if you're a bar, like the defendant, and you serve alcohol to someone under the age of 21, you're responsible for what happens to them next. And when the defendant decided to serve Jessica Marks alcohol, when the signs were there, you're going to learn that this defendant did nothing. That the signs were there, but they kept serving. It's for that reason that Jessica Marks' family has brought a suit of wrongful death under California law against the defendant today. Now, what that means for you members of the jury is that we have to prove 4 things to you. That the defendant was licensed to sell liquor. That Ms. Marks was under 21 years old, a minor. That she was obviously intoxicated on the night in question, and that the defendant's actions were the proximate cause of her death. Now, to make things easier, the defendant has already admitted to the first 2 prongs here. So all we have to prove today is that Jessica Marks was obviously intoxicated, that everyone and anyone could see that she was drunk, and that the defendant's actions were a foreseeable cause of her death. Members of the jury, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to show you it's more likely than not that the signs were there, but they kept on serving. We're going to start by showing you all the signs that were there on the night in question. You'll hear from Jessica's friend, Morgan, who was with her that whole night. You'll learn that Jessica was stumbling, slurring her speech, showing all the signs of what a reasonable person would recognize as drunken behavior. But members of the jury, we're also going to show you how the defendant responded. In the midst of all this drunken behavior, how they kept serving her. And members of the jury, you'll hear what happened after the defendant kept serving. How Jessica left that bar, got in her car, and drove to her death. Now, members of the jury, we expect the defendant to make this case about Jessica's behavior, to try to blame a 19-year-old for being sold alcohol and let drive. But members of the jury, as they do that, consider why we have the law in the first place. Why we protect teenagers and why we hold bar owners responsible. And ask yourself, did Jessica do anything unreasonable? If that answer is no, and you see the signs, and you see that they kept serving, we'll ask you to find the defendant liable in today's case. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Does the defense have an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. May it please the court, Mr. Nerukar, members of the jury, you can't solve a problem that you don't know about. Mr. Nerukar and I, we actually agree on a lot. We agree. Miss Mehta served minors alcohol. We agree. Miss Marks was drunk that night. We even agree that her intoxication was the cause of her death. But where we disagree, and what this case comes down to, is one simple question. Who knew? Who knew how drunk Miss Marks was that night? Who knew that she was so drunk she posed a risk to her own safety? Because although the plaintiff wants you to believe that it was Sonny's rooftop bar, they're going to learn that there was one person who knew how dangerous, how unsafe she was that night. And it was Miss Marks herself. You're going to learn that although Miss Marks knew she was drunk, she got into a car and drove away. Folks, I'm not going to try to convince you that that's not tragic, because it is. But Sonny's rooftop bar, they didn't know how drunk she was. Contrary to what Mr. Nerukar told you, the signs were not there. And you can't solve a problem you don't know about. But still, the plaintiff has brought this lawsuit against Sonny's rooftop bar. And when they did that, they assumed a burden to prove their case by a preponderance of the evidence. That means it's their job, and their job alone, to prove every single element of their claim until you're convinced that it's more likely than not Sonny's rooftop bar is responsible. But you're also going to learn that today as the defense, we're pursuing something called an affirmative defense. But all that means is that if and only if the plaintiff has met that burden, well, you get to consider whether Miss Marks's actions could have caused her death. Members of the jury, the plaintiff just isn't going to meet that burden today. Because of one simple fact. You can't solve a problem you don't know about. To prove that to you, we're going to ask you to pay attention to two questions over the course of today's trial. First, who actually seemed drunk that night? And second, what did Miss Marks do? Let's walk through those one by one. First, who actually seemed drunk that night? Because today the plaintiff doesn't have to prove that Miss Marks was drunk, but that she was obviously intoxicated, that Miss Mehta gave her those drinks knowing she was too far gone. But you're actually going to hear from Miss Mehta herself, and she's going to tell you that between Miss Levin, the plaintiff's star witness, and Miss Marks, well, Miss Levin was the only one who was obviously drunk, the only one that showed the warning signs. That she told Miss Levin to not drive home that night. So second, what did Miss Marks do? We're going to hear what happened after they left that bar. That Miss Levin begged Miss Marks to get into that Uber, to not drive home, but every time Miss Marks said no. She got in that car, she drove away, and she was dead within minutes. You can't solve a problem that you don't know about? And Miss Meta, Sonny's rooftop bar, they couldn't have stopped what happened that night. That's why we're going to ask you to find them not liable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Okay. Plaintiff,
Yes, Your Honor. Can the plaintiff call its first witness?
please do.
At this time, the plaintiff calls Morgan Levin to the stand. Good afternoon. Please introduce yourself to the members of the jury.
Hi, I'm Morgan Levin.
What do you do for a living, Miss Levin?
I'm a student right now at UCLA. I'm a biology major.
Do you know someone named Jessica Marks?
I did. Yeah, Jess was my best friend.
Can you tell us a little bit about her?
Sure. Gosh, we met in high school, and I always thought she was just like the coolest girl around. She loved musicals, Taylor Swift, those chocolate almonds from Trader Joe's. She was the nicest person I've ever met. Really miss her.
Miss Levin, where were you on March 24th, 2019?
I was with Jess.
I want to talk about what happened on that evening. Where did you two go?
Well, we met up at my dorm campus, drove over to our Airbnb, and then we went over to a bar.
Which bar was it?
Sunny's rooftop bar. It's in Malibu.
How old were you two at the time?
19.
How'd you get into the bar?
Well, we had fakes and,
If I were to show you a copy of those fake IDs, would you be able to recognize them?
I think so.
Your Honor, we're sharing our screens now with exhibits 3 and 4 for identification. Ms. Levin, what are we looking at here?
The ID on the top that's Jess's. The one on the bottom was mine.
Are they fair and accurate from what you remember of those IDs?
They look to be the fake IDs, yeah.
This time, Your Honor, we offer them into evidence.
Any objection?
No objections to the IDs themselves, Your Honor.
They are admitted.
All right, Ms. Levin, what time did you get to the bar?
9 p.m.
And what did you do when you got there?
Well, we walked in, went straight up the stairs, and found a table on the rooftop.
Did you meet any of the employees at the bar?
Sure. There were only 2 that I saw that night. We passed the bar and the bartender on the way in, and our server apparently was the owner as well. So we saw those 2 people.
I want to go through the signs of drinking that you and Jessica left that night. Do you have any photos of what it looked like when you were there?
Sure. I had my iPhone with me, so I was documenting the whole night, I wanted to have photos to remember it by.
Would you recognize those photos if we were to show you to them in court?
I think so.
Show them to you, rather. Your Honor, this time we're sharing our screens with exhibits 11, 14, and 16. What are we looking at here, ma'am?
Well, those are 3 photos. They're the photos of our table from that night. The person in the background that was Jess. I took the pictures.
This time, Your Honor, we offer them into evidence.
Any objection?
Without objection, Your Honor.
Ms.
Okay,
Levin,
then they're admitted.
I want to go through in some detail and put these photos on a bit of a timeline. Let's start with exhibit 11.
Okay.
What are you two drinking in this photo?
That's red wine.
And what time was this photo taken?
I made sure to look over before I came. That one was 9:10 p.m.
Your Honor, we're adding the Exhibit 11 to a virtual timeline. Let's talk about Exhibit 14, another one of those photos. What are you two drinking in this photo?
The red wine's still there. 2 White Claws. That's like a hard seltzer. There's 2 IPAs and Jess has another drink.
What time was this photo taken?
That one was 10:18.
All right, and lastly, let's look at Exhibit 16, the last photo you mentioned.
Okay.
Anything new you guys are drinking here?
It looks like the IPA is there, and there's another White Claw that Jess is holding, and the other drink she had from earlier is empty.
And what time did you take this photo of the drinks?
That one was 11:32 p.m.
Now, are there any drinks you can remember that aren't in these photos that you remember Jessica drinking?
I know we had a round of green tea shots. I didn't see those in the pictures.
And who was serving you these drinks throughout the night?
It was the owner, Sunny Mehta.
I want to talk about the signs that Jessica was showing and her behavior. While she was drinking, how was she acting?
Well, she was loud. She was slurring. She started doing impressions of the Oscars at one point. To me, she seemed pretty drunk.
Where was Sunny Mehta, the bar's owner, while she was acting that way?
Well, Sunny kept coming to our table throughout the night, 8 or 10 times. So, Sunny was there sometimes when she was acting like that, other times not.
I want to talk about how the defendant reacted to Jessica's behavior.
Okay.
Did you ever hear anyone at the defendant mention cutting off Jessica from ordering more drinks?
Yes. Around 10, Jess fell down the stairs onto Sunny. And so I remember Sunny looked over at the bartender and said, we need to cut this one off.
Did they cut her off?
No, we were served a few drinks after that.
Did they cut either of you off at any point that night?
No, not that I remember.
Did they tell you to get a cab?
No.
Did they call a cab for you?
No, they didn't.
What time did you and Jessica leave?
It was, I'd say 11:45.
I want to talk about what happened after the defendant let you drive. Where did Jessica go next?
Well, we both walked down the stairs and went to the parking lot.
Did you see Jessica get in her car?
Yeah. I told her not to. I told her I didn't want her driving, but she didn't listen. She got behind the car and she got in.
Ma'am, if I were to show you a map, do you think you'd be able to explain to the members of the jury exactly what you saw?
I think so.
Your Honor, we're sharing our screens now with Exhibit 20. Ma'am, does this look like an accurate photo of the Pacific Coast Highway outside of Sunny's from your recollection?
Yeah, it looks like a map of it at least.
Your Honor, this time we offer Exhibit 20 to evidence its accuracy has been stipulated.
Any objection?
No objections pursuant to stipulation, Your Honor.
Okay, Exhibit 20 is admitted.
Ms. Levin, using the annotation bar on the share screen feature, can you show the members of the jury how exactly you saw Jessica drive away?
Sure. So we were in the parking lot, right? She gets in the car right here by the maroon tab I see. She pulls out of the parking lot, starts driving onto the road. and I'd called an Uber because I didn't want to be with her in the car that night. So my Uber was right behind her. We started driving down PCH. And, she was driving straight the whole time until we crossed the bridge. And out of nowhere, I saw her car swerve.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that the witness has drawn a red line from Sonny's bar to the yellow point, the crash site. Ma'am, how long was it between when Jessica left the bar and she crashed?
Gosh, 2 minutes, maybe. We just started driving on the road and it was maybe 2 minutes when she swerved.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you, counsel. Any cross-examination from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. One moment to readjust my camera angle.
Take your time.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
Before we get started, Miss Levin, can you see and hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
If you ever need a moment, just let me know, okay?
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
I want to start by talking about why you're here today, ma'am. Because you were with Miss Marks that night, weren't you?
Yeah, I was.
You feel horrible about what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I was with her. I let her get in that car.
You blame yourself for Miss Marks's death, true?
Yes.
But ma'am, you weren't the only person who thought that, were you?
I'm sorry?
Well, it's true, Miss Marks's mother. Well, she blamed you too, right?
When we all first heard what happened to Jess, Ms. Marks came over and she talked to me and she said I should have stopped her. So I guess at first she did.
That's a yes to my question. Miss Marks's mother blamed you, didn't she?
At first,
Ma'am, she told you she was going to sue you.
yeah, she said that at one point.
But she's not doing that anymore, is she?
No, I don't think so.
Well, you're testifying for her instead, right?
I'm testifying for Jess.
You're testifying on behalf of the plaintiff, true?
I think so.
Plaintiff, that's Miss Marks's mother, right?
I don't really know how it all works. I guess I just know that she's been talking about this case.
Well, I'd like to talk about more of your testimony today. What you can and can't tell us. Because it's true, ma'am, your memory of that night, it's not perfect, right?
No,
Can't tell us everything that happened.
no, I can't.
Ma'am, May 24th, 2019 was over 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was.
Not only that, ma'am, you were drinking that night, true?
Sure.
I want to talk a little bit more about what you had. Because it's safe to say you were pretty drunk that night, weren't you?
No, I was buzzed. I didn't get drunk.
Well, you had a glass of wine before you left.
Sure.
Once you got there, you had a beer,
Yeah, I had a beer at one point.
another glass of wine,
Yeah, Jess and I shared the red.
a double shot.
Yeah, I had one of those.
Then I want to talk about Miss Marks, because
Okay.
it's true. You were with Miss Marks the entire night, right?
Yeah, I was. Picked me up at 6, and I was with her the whole night.
Ma'am, on direct, you said that she was loud and slurring her words, true?
Yeah,
But ma'am, it's also true. You can't tell us when she started experiencing those symptoms, can you?
that's not true.
Ma'am, you don't remember when she started experiencing those symptoms.
No, she started slurring her words and talking loudly right when we got to Sunny's. It was 9.
Well, ma'am, because it's true, you drank before you came, right?
Right, the wine.
You noticed that she was tipsy before you entered the bar.
Yes, right when we walked in, like I said, that's when she started slurring her words and stuff.
And then you drank more, right?
Yeah, they kept serving us drinks.
And you told us she was stumbling.
Yeah, at one point.
But ma'am, you were at that bar for 3 hours, right?
We were.
You only remember her stumble once?
She only fell down the stairs once, sure.
Well, you don't ever mention seeing her stumble any other time that night, do you?
Not specifically. I guess not.
Then I want to talk about what happened after you left that bar. Because it's true, you went outside, true?
Yeah,
You told Miss Marks you were getting in an Uber, right?
yeah, I told her I didn't want to drive with her.
Ma'am, you begged her not to, right?
Of course.
Ma'am, she told you, I've had plenty of experience driving after a big night, right?
Yeah, she told me she thought she was fine.
She got in that car.
Yeah,
She drove away.
yeah,
Ma'am, just a few minutes later, she died.
yeah.
Thank you, Miss Levin. Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing further.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect from the plaintiff?
There's no redirect, Your Honor. We just asked that Ms. Levin step down.
Thank you, Ms. Levin.
Thank you.
Anything further from the plaintiff?
No, Your Honor. This time the plaintiff rests. We're willing to go straight through to the defense's case in chief, unless the defense wants a break or something.
Defense, how are we feeling?
That's fine with us, Your Honor. We can begin our case in chief.
We'll press then. All right, defense, please proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. This time we call Miss Sunny Mehta to the stand. May I proceed, Your Honor?
Of course.
Miss Mehta, before we get started, can you see and hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Good afternoon, ma'am. Can you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Sure. I'm Sunny Mehta.
What do you do for a living?
So I work in the restaurant industry. I own my own business. It's a bar in downtown Los Angeles.
Ma'am, do you know why you're here today?
I do. In 2019, a couple of years ago, a girl named Jessica Marks passed away outside the bar that I used to own. It's called Sunny's Rooftop Bar. And her family is suing the bar because we served her drinks that night.
Well, I want to talk about Sunny's Bar a little bit more. How long have you been operating?
I ran Sunny's for about 3.5 years.
Well, do you still own the bar?
No, I don't own it anymore. I sold it back in 2020, so about a year ago now, for a couple $1 million.
So why are you testifying on behalf of the bar today?
I know that what happened to that girl was a tragedy. I mean, I was heartbroken when I heard about her accident. But I also know myself, and I know my staff, and of course I wish this never happened, but I also know that we weren't responsible.
Want to talk about the precautions that you took at your bar? Were your staff trained at all?
Of course. So California mandates that any bar in the state receives liquor trainings to keep their liquor license. And those trainings, they're pretty extensive.
What kinds of trainings did you conduct?
Well, everyone does a course called the Responsible Beverage course. That course basically teaches you how alcohol impacts the body. So things like telltale signs of intoxication and how to identify those.
Well, how else do you prepare your staff?
Well, to be frank, experience. I've seen plenty of drunk people in my day. I've been working in this field for a long time. And over that time, you do get to know who needs more or less drinks based on how they're acting.
Now, I want to shift to today's case. Talk about May 24th, 2019. Who was working the night Miss Marks came to Sunny's?
So the night of the 24th, I was working and one other bartender on staff was also working. I was serving drinks and that other bartender, their name was Frankfurt, he was bartending that night. So I interacted with Miss Marks and her friends a few times throughout the whole night.
Around what time did they come into the bar?
It was around 9 p.m. that night.
Did they seem drunk when they came in?
No, I don't think so. They seem pretty sober to me.
Well, ma'am, were you here for the testimony of Miss Levin?
I was.
Did you hear her say she was tipsy before they even went into the bar?
Yes, I heard her say that.
Was that what you saw that night?
No. When those two came into the bar, I didn't see anything like that. They didn't show any signs of being drunk or even being tipsy. They seemed perfectly sober.
What did they do when they came in?
Well, first they ordered something to eat. They ordered, I think, chips and guac, and then they also ordered a bottle of wine for their table.
Well, do you know how many drinks they ordered throughout the entire night?
They ordered a few drinks, wine, like I said, some beer. I wasn't exactly sure who drank what between the two of them, but I know that they ordered around, I'd say 8 drinks by the end of the night.
Then I want to talk and be clear about what signs you did and didn't see the night of the 24th. Your Honor, we're going to be screen sharing a demonstrative aid. Ma'am, at any point in time that night, did you see Miss Marks stumbling?
No, I didn't see anything like that. She was walking just fine.
Did you see her slurring her words?
No, I didn't see that either.
Did you see her eyes being bloodshot?
No, not at all. I didn't see that at all.
Well, do you usually look for those signs?
Yes, I do. Actually, those 3 signs you mentioned, those slurred speech, bloodshot eyes, that stumbling when someone's having trouble walking, those are 3 really important signs that we look for whenever anyone comes into our bar. It's covered pretty extensively in that training course that I mentioned earlier.
Well, did you ever say you were going to cut off Miss Marks from drinks?
No, I didn't say that. Honestly, there was no need to.
What do you mean?
I mean, based on what I saw that night, I didn't see any signs that Miss Marks was seriously drunk at any point in time during that night. I didn't see that sort of speech. I didn't see her eyes getting really red or bloodshot. And she seemed like she was walking fine. So there was really no need to cut her off based on what I saw.
Ma'am, if you had seen those signs, would you have kept serving her?
No, of course not.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Defense counsel.
Yes, Your Honor. The bar for relevance is very low. And certainly this witness's usual technique in how she deals with her clients is certainly relevant as to whether or not she would have served to Miss Marks if she thought that she was obviously intoxicated. It's certainly relevant.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes.
We're here to determine what happened, not how this witness would have acted if something else had happened. they've made it clear on the record that according to this witness, she didn't notice those signs. So for them to ask her how she would have acted if something else were true, it doesn't make any fact in this case more or less likely.
I think it is relevant whether this bar had a policy of cutting off people who were clearly drunk. I'm going to allow the testimony.
Yes, Your Honor. Well, I want to talk about Miss Marks's friend, Miss Love. Did she seem drunk?
She did. She actually seemed more drunk to me than her friend Jessica did.
I want to put that chart back up. That night, did you see Miss Levin stumbling?
I did. Yeah, she was having a little bit of trouble walking.
Did you see Miss Levin slurring her words?
Yes, I did.
Did you see if Miss Levin's eyes were bloodshot?
Yes, when I saw her, her eyes, they were a little bit red.
Ma'am, did you hear Miss Levin testify that Miss Marks bumped into you on the stairs?
I heard her say that.
Do you remember that happening?
No, I don't remember anything like that happening at all. Like I said, when I saw Miss Marks at the bar, I don't think I ever saw her even stumble, much less stumble on top of me or anything like that.
So what did you tell Miss Levin?
Well, I told her that she probably shouldn't drive home. I mean, at that point, she could barely sign a receipt, much less, drive a car.
And did you ever see those two young women again?
I didn't. I know that once Jessica left that bar, she got into that accident. And then I know that she unfortunately passed away during that crash.
Thank you, Miss Mehta. Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing further.
Thank you, defense counsel. Any cross-examination,
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
please?
Good afternoon, Ms. Mehta. I just have a few questions about what you just said on direct examination, okay?
Okay.
I want to start with what you told the members of the jury about what you didn't see with Jessica Marks. You told them that she didn't show any signs of intoxication. Did I hear you correctly?
That's right. I never saw her, stumbling with bloodshot eyes, slurred speech. I didn't see Jessica experiencing any of those things.
Well, I want to be clear about exactly what you're telling the members of the jury. You got a pretty good look at Miss Marks that night, right?
That's right. I went to her table and I served her a couple times.
You'd say she was about 5 feet tall.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
She looked just a bit over 100 pounds to you, right?
Yeah, that sounds about right too.
You know she was in your bar for a better part of 3 hours, right?
That's right.
And she wasn't just sitting there eating chips and guac, was she?
No, I mean, she ordered some food, but she was, spending some time chatting with her friends, things like that.
You also know she was ordering alcohol.
That's right. She was drinking.
You were serving her alcohol that whole night.
I was, yes.
And now you mentioned on direct examination that you served her 8 drinks specifically. Just to be clear, one of those drinks was a bottle of wine, correct?
That's right. Yes, that was the first thing they ordered.
So you add the bottle of wine to those 7 other drinks. That's almost a dozen standard drinks, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, as far as I remember, Jessica and her friend Morgan, they ordered around 8 drinks. As far as I know, I don't know exactly who drank what, or who drank how much of those drinks, but that's what I remember.
But you'd agree that Jessica herself ordered about half of those dozen standard drinks, right?
That sounds about right. Like I said, I don't know how much of that she drank, or if she drank them or if she gave them to her friend after she ordered them, but that sounds about right.
So you're telling the members of the jury that after 3 hours of drinking, Jessica was completely sober?
Well, she seemed pretty sober to me. Like I said, it's not really important to consider how much someone drank. There's a lot of factors that can affect how drunk someone actually is. They could have eaten before they got to the bar. They could have been pacing their drinks throughout the night. They could have not finished their drinks. There's so many different factors. That's why it's important to look at how someone is really behaving.
Ma'am, I just want to get your testimony clear for the jury. You're telling the members of the jury that after 3 hours of drinking your alcohol, Jessica Marks did not seem intoxicated.
No, I didn't see any of those signs that I mentioned earlier.
Well, you actually know there's a video of Jessica at your bar, right?
That's right.
You recognize it if I were to show it to you now.
I would.
Your Honor, we're showing our screens with what's been marked as Exhibit 10. Ma'am, you've seen this video before.
I've seen this before. You're right.
That is exactly what Jessica was wearing when she was at your bar.
Yes, that white top and green pants. I remember them.
In fact, looking at the surrounding here, that is your bar.
It is. That's right.
Your Honor, this time we offer Exhibit 10 into evidence. Per stipulations, it is an authentic social media post from March 24th.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor, to hearsay.
Plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor. Insofar as there are any statements in this video, we're not offering them for their truth. We're just using this video to look at Jessica Marks's demeanor. So we're not offering it for any truth. It's not hearsay.
Plaintiff's counsel, one second, defense counsel. Plaintiff's counsel, the court can't see the video playing, so this is an image on the screen, but this is
It's
actually
currently a video. It will be
video. Oh, it is. Maybe I feel-
It's not currently playing, Your Honor, but we'll be playing it once it's entered into evidence.
Okay. Can you proffer to the court as to the contents of the video? What is being said in the video?
Yes, Your Honor. If I remember correctly, and I hope defense counsel will make sure I'm not leaving anything out, I believe she notes how the time is going, where they are, the price of the White Claws they're drinking. She makes some general comments about what people are like in Malibu. And also, if I'm not mistaken, well, actually, I think that's all I can recollect now. I'm also happy to play the video outside the earshot of the jury to check this.
Let's play the video. Let's see what it says.
Oh, Mr. Leckery, make sure your audio is connected as well. A moment, Your Honor.
Take your time.
Hi everyone, Morgan and I are in Hollywood. We're at a bar. It's kind of like a Philly bar, except everything is really, really expensive. $10 for a seltzer. And everyone here wants to be a model or an actress. I'd like to thank the Academy. Mom and Dad, you've inspired me. Okay, well, go big or go home.
Counsel, the objection is to hearsay is overruled.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Mehta, as we were just to make sure we're all on the same page here, this video is from in your bar.
Yeah, that's the rooftop of the bar.
You know this video was posted onto social media at 11:11 p.m.
That's right.
That's in the middle of when you were walking around the upper rooftop.
That's right. It was.
Well, while you were serving Jessica and her friend their drinks.
Right. I don't think that I was serving them their drinks at the time that this video was posted. I never even saw them taking this video.
But around the time, you were still serving drinks in the rooftop past 11:11.
Sure, later that night, yeah.
Certainly, you served them drinks after 11:11, after this video was posted, right?
Later that night.
Let's watch the video now. Mr. Leckery?
Hi everyone, Morgan and I are in Hollywood. We're at a bar. It's kind of like a Philly bar, except everything is really, really expensive. $10 for a seltzer. And everyone here wants to be a model or an actress. I'd like to thank the Academy. Mom and Dad, you've inspired me. Okay, well, go big or go home.
Ms. Mehta, you'd agree with me. That woman is obviously intoxicated, wouldn't you say?
No, I'm not sure that I'd agree with that. She wasn't exhibiting all the signs. We can't tell if her eyes are bloodshot. We can't tell if she was stumbling. She seems a little bit tipsy, maybe, but it's just not enough to tell whether or not she was obviously intoxicated. Being tipsy and being too drunk are very different things.
Well, let's return to your signs then. You heard her slurring at the beginning of the video, right?
Sure, a little bit.
That's a sign, isn't it?
That's right.
You saw her fumbling about for her drinks, didn't you?
I'm not quite sure. I saw her picking up the can.
Man, if someone's fumbling for their drinks, that's a bad sign too, isn't it?
I'm not sure that she was really fumbling for her. I just saw her pick up the can.
Redirecting me back to my question, ma'am. If someone is fumbling from drink to drink, that would be a sign of intoxication. Wouldn't you agree?
Sure, I guess if that was happening.
You'd agree with me when she was talking in the video, she didn't make a whole lot of sense either, did she?
I mean, I guess not. She just seemed like she was having fun.
That's another sign of someone being intoxicated, wouldn't you say?
I guess it could be.
At the end of that video, she's still drinking.
That's right.
Ma'am, you also know what happened after this video was posted, right?
I know that she left the bar a little bit after that.
You know what happened after she left?
I do. Yes, it was very unfortunate.
Your Honor, we're putting on our screen pre-admitted exhibit 20 with Miss Levin's annotations. This witness wasn't sequestered. Ma'am, you can see here where Miss Marks crashed her car eventually, can't you?
Yes, I can.
Just over the bridge from your bar, right?
That's right. Down the stretch of the highway.
You've been over that highway bridge dozens of times, right?
I have. That's right.
That's not a tough drive, right?
No, it's a small highway, pretty straight.
You agree with me? It's not just straight, it's well lit.
That's right.
At night, there are no distractions.
Yeah, like you said, it's usually a pretty easy drive.
And yet, after that bridge, you see Jessica Marks crashed into a ravine beside it.
Yes, that's right.
Ma'am, that's the person you're telling the members of the jury was showing no signs of intoxication when she left your bar?
I'm sorry, all I can tell you is what I saw. I mean, she wasn't showing any signs of being too drunk. When she left that bar that night, she was speaking perfectly clearly. She was walking straight. I even made sure to monitor her as she was going down the steps as she was leaving, and I didn't see any signs that she was drunk. If she looked like she was drunk, I would have stopped her. I would have called her a cab. I would have taken her keys away. I would have done something.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Anything further from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Redirect.
Please.
Ms. Mehta, is it your testimony that you thought that Miss Marks was completely sober when she walked out of your bar?
I mean, she was maybe a little bit tipsy, or even a little bit buzzed, but nowhere near being drunk. I mean, like I said, those signs that we looked for, I just didn't see them.
Did you know if she was obviously intoxicated?
Yes, she was not obviously intoxicated.
Objection, Your Honor. It calls for a legal opinion.
Response on those grounds, Your Honor?
Yes, defense.
Mr. Nerukar asked a very similar question to Ms. Levin on her direct examination. Even if it was a legal opinion, it would be fair game for this witness to testify to the same.
Yeah, I don't think it's a legal opinion in the context it was asked here, so overruled.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Mehta, you were telling us whether or not you thought she was obviously intoxicated. What were you saying?
Sure. Like I was saying, from what I saw, I made sure to pay attention to her when she walked in, throughout the night, as she was leaving. She was not obviously intoxicated or anywhere near that.
Thank you, Ms. Mehta. Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing further.
Thank you, counsel. This witness is excused. Is there anything further from the defense?
No, Your Honor. At this time, the defense rests its case in chief.
Okay, thank you, counsel. Would both counsel like a recess before we continue?
Yes, Your Honor, we request just a brief minute or 2 minute recess just to discuss with my second chair.
Sure, why don't we do 5? And we'll be back on the record at, we're all different time zones, at 02. I think that makes sense to everybody.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, we're back on the record in the case of Ethel Marks versus Sunny's Rooftop Bar. We last left off, the defense had just finished their case in chief. Are we ready for closing arguments?
Plaintiff is ready, Your Honor.
Defense is ready as well, Your Honor.
Okay, plaintiff, please proceed.
May it please the court. Mr. Harper, members of the jury. When you look at this photo, you might see one of a few things. You might see a college student trying to have a good time. You might see a teenager making a mistake. You might see a friend. But when the defendant looked at this person, members of the jury, they saw another customer. Today, you heard what happened when Jessica Marks went to that bar with her friend. What happened when they started serving her drinks. All the signs she began to show, the slurred speech, the stumbling around. Members of the jury, the signs were there, but you also heard how the defendant reacted. How the defendant kept serving. You see, members of the jury, the law we're using to sue the defendant today is something called the Dram Shop Act. It protects people who go to bars from over-serving. It makes sure that bars, when they're sober bartenders giving and making money off of drinks to not sober people, are responsible. That they make sure the people who go to them get home okay. And members of the jury, when two 19-year-olds got through to Sunny's Rooftop Bar, when they were loaded up with alcohol, it was the defendant's responsibility to make sure they got home safe. That's the law. But members of the jury, as the plaintiff, we couldn't just tell you that today. We also had something to prove. We had to prove to you that Jessica Marks wasn't just drunk, but that she was obviously intoxicated, and that it's more likely than not that she was that way to the defendant. And we also had to prove to you that it's more likely than not that the defendant's actions, when they loaded her up with alcohol, that were the proximate cause of her death, that they were foreseeable and that they were direct. Now, members of the jury, we proved both of those things, but let's go through how. How do we know that she was obviously drunk, obviously intoxicated that night? Well, we showed you a video of what she looked like, and it was acting like that night. Let's look at it now. Mr. Lecker, if you can pull up Exhibit 10. Just watch the first 10 seconds of this video.
Hi everyone, Morgan and I are in Hollywood. We're at a bar. It's kind of like a Philly bar, except everything is really, really expensive.
Members of the jury, what you see in this video isn't just a woman who's tipsy, isn't just a woman who's buzzed. You see someone who is obviously intoxicated. You see someone who, if you had the choice, would make sure wouldn't go down and put keys in their car and try to drive home. But what did the defendant say when we asked her about this video? Oh, she looked tipsy. She looked buzzed. Members of the jury, if you look tipsy and you look buzzed, that's exactly what obviously intoxicated means. If you can tell someone has alcohol in their system, you cannot let them drive the way the defendant did. Because members of the jury, what you can't do is do what the defense has done today. Tell you that no, we didn't see these signs. We weren't looking that closely. She was acting this way, but not in front of us. In fact, it's her fault she got into that car accident just moments after leaving our bar. Members of the jury, if you take the defense at their word, why would we have this law in the first place? If we have a law that says if something bad happens to someone who gets overserved at a bar, then why would it be the case that someone who goes to the bar, gets in a car, and crashes right after is suddenly not the kind of person we're talking about? What did Jessica Marks do, members of the jury, that was so wrong that makes her responsible for her death, that makes her different than every other 19-year-old in the country? The defense has made some interesting arguments today. They've tried to say, no, it's not Jessica Marks who we overserved, it's her friend, Morgan. They say, no, you've got the wrong 19-year-old. We didn't overserve Jessica, we overserved Megan, Morgan. But members of the jury, that's not a defense. It's not a defense to say you overserved a different 19-year-old. At the end of the day, it was the defendant's responsibility to keep track of the drinks Jessica was having. It was their legal obligation to make sure she got home safe. And when they didn't, when the signs were there and they kept serving, that caused her death. That's why we're asking you to find them liable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Oh, excuse me. May it please the court, opposing counsel, members of the jury. You can't solve a problem that you don't know about. Miss Marks's death was a tragedy. And there's nothing I or Mr. Nerukar could say to change that fact. And I'm not going to try to. But here's the thing. When the plaintiff takes a tragedy and they start pointing fingers and bring allegations to court, they can't just tell you that those allegations are true. They have to prove it. And today, the plaintiff, they didn't do that. Because you heard that the only person who saw the signs, the only person who knew she was unsafe, was Miss Marks herself. And that's what makes this case even more tragic. Because when there's no one to blame, it's easy to point fingers. But it's the plaintiff that's carried the burden of proof in today's trial. They've had to prove their claim by a preponderance of the evidence. And if and only if they've met that burden, members of the jury, you get to consider our affirmative defense. You get to consider whether or not Miss Marks's actions could have contributed to her death. And I want to make a few things clear on the law, because it seems like Mr. Nerukar and I, we actually disagree. The law says it wasn't Miss Mehta's job to run outside and take the keys out of her hand. It wasn't Miss Mehta's job to force her to get into an Uber, no. The plaintiff had to prove that Miss Mehta served Miss Marks drinks when she was obviously intoxicated inside of that bar, that it was so obvious she was too far gone that she couldn't even serve her a single drink. And that's not what you heard today, folks. But how do we know that? Well, in opening statements, I asked you to pay attention to two questions. First, who actually seemed drunk that night? And second, what did Miss Marks do? So I want to walk through those one by one. Talk about the evidence that we heard today. Let's start with that first question. Who actually seemed drunk that night? Because I want you to think about what the plaintiff is telling you. They're telling you that Miss Marks was so drunk, So intoxicated that anyone should have known that she shouldn't have had a single drink. And so what would you think you would hear today if that was the case? Maybe one person seeing her unconscious, falling at the bar. Maybe another person seeing her stumbling over and over and over. But what did you hear today? Well, you heard from Miss Levin. And all she could tell you was that Miss Marks tripped down the stairs once. One time. Over the course of 3 hours, she tripped down the stairs, so that must obviously mean that she was seriously inebriated. That's not reasonable, members of the jury. People trip all the time, and it's pretty unlikely that they're always severely intoxicated. And sure, Miss Levin was able to tell you that she may have heard her being loud, may have been slurring her words, but she can't tell you when exactly that happened. Miss Levin says they were drunk before they went to the bar. Miss Meta says the opposite. Miss Levin says that she tripped. Miss Meta says the opposite. Folks, at the end of the day, this case comes down to a he said, she said, and when that's the case, you have to ask yourself a simple question. Who do you want to trust? The person who can't even remember the entire night because she was in shock, because she was 4 shots deep, the same person that wasn't even going to testify into this trial because she almost got sued herself. Or the person who already lost their bar, that has nothing to lose, that was sober that night. The answer is simple, members of the jury. You would choose the latter. It's clear that the plaintiff hasn't met their burden. So you have to go to that second question. What did Ms. Marks do? And you know the answer to that question, members of the jury. Because she left that bar. She went downstairs and she told her friend she was getting in that car. Ms. Levin told her, please don't do it. Please get into an Uber. She said, I've had plenty of times driving after a big night. She did just that. That was her choice. To get in that car, turn the ignition, drive down that road. There was nothing Miss Meta could have done. But what has the plaintiff told you today? What have they shown you? They've shown you that video. The only evidence that Miss Marks was intoxicated besides Miss Levin's testimony. But you can't really take that video very seriously because of something Miss Meta actually tried to tell Mr. Nerukar on cross-examination. People always don't show how much they're drinking. They could seem more or less intoxicated than they actually are. Why do you think police officers use breathalyzers, folks? If the police could just automatically know how much a person is drinking, why would they bother to even do a test? That's because it's not as simple as seeing someone and knowing how much they've drank. You can't fix a problem you don't know about. And Sonny's rooftop bar, Miss Meta, they just didn't know how drunk Miss Marks was. The only person that did was Miss Marks herself. That's why we ask you to find Sonny's rooftop bar not liable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Plaintiff, rebuttal?
Yes, Your Honor. After all that's been said today, members of the jury, don't listen to any of our words. Watch Jessica's behavior. Consider how she's acting. Consider where she's acting in the middle of the defendant's bar. And ask yourself, how drunk is that person? How does she seem drunk? Is there any good reason for the defendant not to see her that way? And would you ever, if you were a sober adult, if any reasonable person was a sober adult in that room, let her drive? Follow those questions, you'll find the defendant liable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Anything further from either party?
No, Your Honor.
Nothing from the plaintiff, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, counsel. Why don't we give our jurors a chance to complete the ballots? Someone's yelling at me here. Let me see what that's about. Oh, I guess I was the last one with a ballot. Okay. My ballot's submitted, I think. So maybe I can get a verification from our folks here. They got it. All right. I think the guidance here is to have each juror give one comment about each attorney. So do we have any jurors who want to kick things off?
I can go.
Great.
My lighting is awful. It's just got super dark over here. Hi, everyone. My name's Taylor Rich. I go to Law, Miami Law right now. Graduated from FSU last year, and I competed in TBC. So I know how you're all feeling, and trust me, tomorrow, like, you'll literally feel such a weight off your shoulders just after round 3. Like, I promise. Plaintiff, I thought the theme was really great, and I thought the direct, I forgot the witness's name. She did a good job too. You guys had a really great flow together. I know that was super off the cuff, so good job. And then defense, I loved your demeanor just throughout the entire thing, like throughout their direct. You looked super focused, super into it, and I loved your closing. And that's it. Good luck, guys.
Which of our other 2 jurors would like to go next? How about Jeffrey down at the bottom?
Sure. I'm Jeffrey. I'm a former college competitor. I'm not in law anymore, or I am not in law, but I'd like to say I'm all with mock trial. I thought both attorneys did great. Both witnesses were really solid too. Plaintiff, I thought your theme was really solid. Like, it really stuck with me, and I think it really sort of captured your case really well. So I liked your theme a lot. Defense, I thought your closing was a really good sort of burst of energy. I know it's long, it's been a long day for you, but for you to be able to come out and have that kind of energy in your closing, I thought was really solid. So great job to both of you. Good luck.
My name's Jabari. I competed in mock trial for 4 years, coach mock trial now at the University of Richmond. Thought the round was really solid, really great. A little objection light, but I guess that has a tendency to happen. It's either way too many objections depending on your style, or not enough objections, or no objections. And that tends to happen at the top levels of competition, right? Because you guys are really good and you have a strategy in place. Some people like to earn points with more objections. Other people think, well, stay back, let the witnesses, let the theory be the star of the show. So, but other than that, yeah, I thought the round was pretty good. I really enjoyed the plaintiff's opening. I thought the theme was good, and it really showed its way through. Your use of demonstratives was really solid, and the defense did a good job. Had a nice presence, nice even keel. It made it really fun to watch. So good luck, you guys, the rest of the way.
Yeah, awesome job, guys. My name's Christian Acevedo. I'm a federal prosecutor here in Southern California, and I thought you both were excellent. Plaintiffs' counsel, Sahil, right? You were terrific, and excellent use of exhibits. The timeline, how it just moved as you admitted exhibits, I thought was really well done. It came across really well over Zoom. I thought that was terrific. Defense, yes, tone, theme, your energy in closing. I agree with all the previous comments. Was really just throughout you were consistent, and it really popped at the end, and to be able to carry it through the whole way, especially over this format, which hopefully this is the last year that this format sticks around. But I thought you were both great. Best of luck moving forward to both of you.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate it. And thanks, Travis. Great round.
Yes, thank you.